What's happening, friends, and welcome back to Driven by Purpose. I am so glad that you are here. We've got a cool little thing going on. We've got New Year's coming up, and there's all these cliches, all these conversations, all these sayings going around about, if you go into the new year doing the same stuff, you're just going to have another year, right? If you don't make changes, you're not going to get different results. There's all these cliche sayings out there, and really what I want to focus on, and when it comes to my story and the things that I've gone through, the past. We don't like to, we just do it. But we cling to the past, and we take the things that we've done, we take 2024 into 2025, and we don't accomplish in 2025 what we wanted to because 2024 came with us. We don't go into our future doing the things and accomplishing the things that we want to do because we've got all the baggage and weight and mistakes and failures and all of these things from before weighing us down. And so that's what I want to talk about today. And, have you ever looked in the mirror and just thought, who am I really? The weight of your past mistakes and failures and unfulfilled dreams, they can feel like just a heavy cloud hanging over you. And it's a feeling that we all know too well. And especially those of us who have gone through some storms, some shipwrecks, some just rock bottom experiences. We know this all too well. And it's being trapped in a life that doesn't feel like our own. One of the things that I've always talked about in my story is I felt like I was watching my life unfold from above. Like I didn't have control and like I was just watching this movie play out and just watching this moron make all of these stupid choices and decisions, and it was like I wasn't even living my own life, and I felt like I was trapped somewhere else, and again just feeling like I was it wasn't my own, but here's the truth. You have the power to reset everything right now, today, in this very moment. And I talked to one of my other podcasts that don't wait for the new year. Yes, we are here. The new year is coming. We're all gearing up for it. We're making those goals and changes. Whenever you recognize you need a change, whenever you recognize you need a reset, if it's February, March, April, whatever, do it. You have the power in this moment to reset, to change, to do what you have to do, to choose to disappear. And I don't mean disappear from the world, but from the person you used to be. You can choose to disappear from the person of the past, the person who made that mistake, the person who failed, to let go of the past and truly embrace what's coming, to embrace the future. For many of us, the past can be just such a heavy burden, constantly reminding us of our mistakes and missed opportunities. But we have to remember that the past is just a ghost that exists in our mind. And we allow it to hang out. We allow it to take over. And it does not control the present or your future unless you let it. That's on you. That's your choice. The moment that you decide to release the past, to get rid of it, to let it go, is when you start opening yourself up for all of the possibilities that lie ahead, all of the possibilities and the wondrous miracles that God has in store for your life. Think about the times that you've felt stuck, replaying old arguments or decisions in your mind. We do it all the time. I do it all the time. We let yesterday's moments creep into today and steal the joy and the potential of today. And that's why I'm talking about 2025 coming up. If you let and replay all of these things, all of these yesterdays, all of these last year, 2024 moments are going to creep in and steal your joy and potential for this next year. But what if you chose to stop holding on to these memories that only remind you of your perceived failures? What if you decided to let them go and free yourself from the chains that they've built around you? It takes courage. Hear me. It takes courage to let go of the past. It is hard. Those are things that we've done. It's easy to cling to old wounds because they're familiar. I talked about I was talking about relationships and when I was speaking about it, but it goes for this too. We're so used to the chaos. We're so used to being treated poorly or being in unhealthy environments that's now familiar and comfortable for us. So we want to stay there, but we have to get out of that. We don't want that unhealthy, that toxic, those bad areas, those old wounds to be familiar. We wear our mistakes like badges of honor that define who we are. But here's the reality. Your mistakes do not define you. Your mistakes do not define you. And it took me a really, really long time to let that sink in. Your mistakes, my mistakes do not define me. They were simply moments in time. Yes, they shape lessons that I've learned. What we don't want is for them to build walls around, or boundaries are good, but not walls. We don't want the walls. We want the boundaries. We want to know what we deserve and where we fit and who we are and the values and principles and lessons that we've learned from these things. But we do not want them to have that power over us. We do not want those mistakes to define who we are. Again, they were just moments in time, and those moments no longer have the power to shape your future unless you allow them to. I keep talking about the choice, the choice is yours, and I'm going to do a podcast on the choice because that is something that is very important to me, and it's very different than just making a decision. When I talk the choice, there's a whole different definition of that, a whole different commitment level, if you will. So we'll get into that at another time. But holding on to past mistakes is like carrying a backpack full of rocks on a long journey. You don't need them. You don't need to take them with you. At first, it feels familiar, like I'm used to this. These rocks have always been there, but the longer you go, it weighs you down and it weighs you down, and it makes every step harder and harder and harder. And every single person who has achieved greatness in this life has faced failure and made mistakes. All of them. The difference between those who remain stuck and those who rise above is the decision, is the choice to let go and move forward. Let go and move forward. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means accepting that the past is over. It means learning the lesson that experience is offering you, the gift that is there for you to be better, to be wiser. You are not the same person that you were back then. You have learned a lot. You have come a long way. You are capable of so much more than you can imagine. And it's about giving yourself permission to step into that next chapter of your life without being anchored by the regrets or the hurts or the betrayals, whatever it might be, that have held you back for so long. Let them go. We all have a story. We all have experiences that have shaped us. But those experiences don't have to dictate how we live today or tomorrow. They do not have to dictate how we go into this next year. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. And you can't move into your true self always pointing back at your shortcomings. And I want to just pull some things out of a Bible story here for a little bit that I feel just aligns with this, because we get so comfortable with who we have been. We get so comfortable with our past. And so in John chapter 5, it's verses 1 through 15. It's a little bit lengthy, but we're going to go through it because it'll be fun. After this, a Jewish festival took place, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. By the sheep gate in Jerusalem, there was a pool called Bathsheba, in Aramaic, which has 5 colonnades. There's a whole lot that goes into that. Lots of number things in the Bible. 5 is grace, but we're not going to talk about that, but just hold that for next time. Has 5 colonnades. Within these lay a large number of disabled, blind, lame, and paralyzed. So get this picture, right? There's these colonnades, there's 5 of them, there's a pool, and there's just a bunch of lame, paralyzed, blind people surrounding this pool. One man was there, he was disabled for 38 years. And when Jesus saw him lying there, he realized he had already been there a very long time. 38 years this man was at this pool. So Jesus asked him, do you want to get well? Pretty simple question, right? Do you want to get well? I think a lot of us would jump to, well, heck yeah, I do, right? Like, let's do this. But here's what he did. Here's what he said. Sir, the disabled man answered, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I'm coming, somebody goes down ahead of me. Get up, Jesus told him. Pick up your mat and walk. Instantly, the man got well, picked up his mat, and started to walk. Now that day was the Sabbath. There's a whole lot that goes into that. So the Jews said to the man who had been healed, this is the Sabbath. The law prohibits you from picking up your mat. He replied, the man who made me well told me, pick up your mat and walk. Who is this man who told you, pick up your mat and walk, they asked. But the man who was healed did not know who it was because Jesus had slipped away into the crowd that was there. After this, Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, see, you are well. Do not sin anymore so that something worse doesn't happen to you. The man went and reported to the Jews that it was Jesus who had made him well. Therefore, the Jews began persecuting Jesus because he was doing these things on the Sabbath. So there's a whole lot into that story. Actually went through verse 16. It's a little bit different on the version on the screen, so I apologize. But this man, check this, and this was a story. This was a myth back in the day, that this pool, that when it was stirred, it was being stirred by an angel. And the myth was that whoever was the first person to get into the pool would be made well. So all of these lame, paralyzed, blind people are just surrounding this pool, waiting for the water to be stirred because that was an angel touching it. And the first person to get into the water was going to be made well. And this man, so Jesus shows up knowing that this man had been there for 38 years and asked him, do you want to get well? And he didn't even say yes. And how many of us that God is trying to speak to us, God is asking us, do you want to be well? Do you want to be healed? Do you want to go into the purpose and the future that I have for you? And we're making excuses to stay exactly where we are, or we're making excuses why we are still where we are. Trust me, I've done that so many times, and I'm blaming other people. It's not my fault I'm still here. I got nobody to help me. But guess what? We've got people to help us. And a lot of times we're putting up walls because of past experiences that we're not allowing them to help us. We're not allowing them to bring us to that next level. There's so much in this story because it for me really resonates with a man stuck in his paralyzed state, stuck in his past, where he is comfortable. And get that picture through your head. This man has been paralyzed by this pool for 38 years and he's comfortable. He's comfortable. He can't even answer Jesus that he wants to get well. He's making excuses to stay exactly where he is. And my challenge today is put the word to work. Put the word to work. And there's this preacher who uses this illustration, and it's really cool that the word of God is like paint, right? Paint comes in a can. Paint, the value of the paint is in the application of the paint. There's no value of the paint in the bucket. It's just in the bucket. It's there to be used. But we need to put that paint to work. We need to apply it. We need to get into the word and find out where to obey. We need to get in here and understand, shoot, I'm this guy at the pool. I'm being weighed down by my past. I'm comfortable with all the chaos that has happened in 2024. And if I don't get rid of that real quick, if I don't start applying some things, I'm going to bring it into 2025 and I'm going to blame other people. I'm not even going to take ownership and responsibility. I am who I am. I've been here for 38 years. I'm comfortable. Leave me alone. I got nobody to help me. I don't want that for you. Something in your life is not working. Something in your life, we'll say it's paralyzed like this man. God, we need to allow God to take apart our life when it's not working. We need to understand how this thing is working so that we can fix it. We need to apply the word to get into and find ourselves in these things, to figure out where we need to go and what we need to do, and realize that we are bringing the past with us. This man, he's stuck and he's blaming other people. How many of us are stuck because we surround ourselves with people who comfort us, who are the same as us, who are actually just as stuck as us? So they're comforting us and keeping us in that comfort area instead of challenging us. Many times we meet people in life, and we meet people for a reason. People come into our life for a reason, whether it's business, it's relationships, whatever it might be. There's lessons to be learned. There's gifts to be given and taken. And it is our responsibility to find those things. And yes, there might be some challenging people in your life. There might be some challenging relationships. But I submit to you that is something that is growing you, that is teaching you, that is trying to get your attention. That's over here screaming, hey, look at this, see me, look, here. I'm trying to show you that you're stuck. But we want to stay around people who are just comfortable, and it's easy because we don't have to change. We don't have to go to the next level when we're surrounded by people who comfort us. This man, Jesus asked him if he wanted to get well, and he was more worried about his brokenness. He was more worried about his, lack of people around him to help him. And how many of us are more worried and more focused on our brokenness and our crippled condition and our past and the things that happen to us, and not our calling? We're stuck right here, but we're not looking at the future. We're always pointing to our problems and not our potential. We're always looking at the feelings we have right now. We're not looking at where this could go. We're not working through those problems. We fall back to the level of our comfort. We fall back to the level of our self-worth instead of knowing how worthy we are, instead of knowing how called and wondrously made we are. The enemy will always show you your broken places. He's got a knack for that, and he will put people in your life that poke those buttons. But it's up to you to realize those buttons are being pushed, and like, hey, that's somewhere that I need some healing. I need to address that. I need to surrender that to God. I need to not take that into my new year. And what is your weakness? What is that thing in your life? In this story, the mat really symbolizes this man's condition. The mat symbolizes that something with this man is not working. The mat was a symbol of being paralyzed. It was a symbol of being disabled and lame and blind in these places. So he had a mat. And that was a symbol of something not working, a weakness in his life. We all have our mats. We all have our past. We all have those things that we carry or that carry us into the new year because we've allowed them to be a part. We've allowed them to control. We've allowed them to take root and permanent residence in our day-to-day life. But what's cool, and a couple things I want to point out in this, and one is about religion, because this story went on, and they were yelling at Jesus because he did this on a Sabbath day. And they were yelling at the man because he could not carry his mat on the Sabbath. It was against the law. These guys are more focused on the mat. They're more focused on the past condition. They're more focused on the things that have carried and weighed them down. They're more focused on the mat instead of the person. And that's religion. And that's where we want to stay away from. We care about the people. We care about the calling that God has on their life. This thing, this mat, this weakness, this past mistake, this regret, this failure, this whatever it is in your life is no longer holding you, but you are holding it. You get to decide. You get to pick it up. Don't hide it. I talk about telling your story and the power of sharing our stories because we've all had different experiences that can help other people. Don't hide your mat. Use it. Hold it high so that people know and they can see what God has truly delivered you from. My challenge, what is your mat? What is your weakness? What is that thing in your life that's not working? What is that thing that has weighed you down and held you back and kept you in comfort instead of being challenged to go to the next level? Even if right now you're battling something, look at it. Look at the lesson. Look at the gift. Instead of going back to your same old ways, your comfort, what works for you, look at where God is trying to take you. Look at the calling and the purpose that God has for you, because you are wondrously and remarkably made. I hope you guys got something out of that today. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, and we will see you next time on Driven by Purpose.